Good morning and welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Grubb here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering finance on this year, Tuesday. And I'm looking at this topic spiritual Israel, finance, wealth, and compassion on the least of these. Spiritual Israel, finance, wealth, and compassion on the least of these. So, welcome again. Let us pray. Oh, Father, what's in heaven, I thank you for your word and this day. Pray you may bless us, dear Lord, as share these thoughts and may you bless my mind and those listening for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking at this important concept here, which is this idea of finance or wealth, money, whatever you want to call it, and compassion on the least of these. And so when we normally talk about Israel or somebody that is Jewish or Jew, it's normally associated with money, that a person is into money, into finance. And so God's people are supposed to prosper, and this prosperity, it normally would be associated or drawn from the biblical concept that who is the head and not the tail. And so, but this normally comes with a lot of negative connotation. So when we talk about this idea here, I want to go drill into that concept here of Israel and finance, or Jewish person and finance. And if we say we're spiritual Israel, what does that mean when it comes on to finance? Is that a negative thing, which throughout history of the world has been a negative thing? So in lifestyle and worship, we are, which is my theme for this week, is in lifestyle and worship, we are Israelites or Jewish that believes in Jesus Christ. So what does that mean if you're, when it comes on to finance, if you're supposed to be like Israel, and yet we believe in Christ? What changes if somebody said, "Well, I'm Jewish in religion and lifestyle"? Well, that would mean you're into money. But if you're into money, is that a negative thing? But what happened when you add that concept that you're Israel or Jewish, so to speak, spiritual Jew, and you believe in Jesus? So I want to explore that with you here, and this should be interesting, or it's interesting in my mind. So I share with you, and then you be the judge of that if it is interesting. So spiritual Israel and lifestyle. So notice here in Matthew, again, our main text, Matthew chapter 3, verse 9. Matthew 3, verse 9 says, "And think not to say within yourselves, we have Abraham to our father. For I say unto you, that God is able of these stones to raise up children unto Abraham." So remember, Abraham had a large household, and for most of his, I don't want to say career, but most of his life, till he was an old age, he didn't have a child. And so everybody that was in his household, for a time, Lot was part of him, and then Lot removed himself or got removed. And then so Abram was going around the land, and the only person that was with him that was part of his lineage or kindred was his wife. Everybody else was not part of him, so to speak, bloodline. And so that I think is a significant thing, because when you understand the Bible, you read the Bible, you realize a Lot household comprised, or his group that he moved with, he was moving with a significant group of people, was 1,000 people. So if you even today, if you say there's a town, probably that would be a town, right? A small town. I don't know if you would classify it as a village. But if you think about that, he had over 1,000 people in his household. So he had servants and manservants enough that he could put together young men to war, over 400. So that can tell you he had a significant group of people. But none of those people were from his kindred or his tribe. They were from various different environment. And he was sent as the, you would probably call the first evangelist to the nations. So the children that Abraham had was literally foreigners to him. All right. Even when he says, "Who's going to be your heir?" It was the assumption he said was, "Oh, it's going to be this foreigner here." So there's so much there that we will probably unpack as we go through the week. We'll deal with some of it, I should say. So Abraham himself was going around with 1,000 people. So Abraham himself was not a poor man. As I say, if anybody today have a company with 1,000 workers, then it's obvious, or supporting 1,000 people, multiple families, obviously that they are not financially, they're well off. So we see Abraham didn't have a hair up until the close towards the end of his life. He going around with about 1,000 people. He's going to nations, and he's basically dealing with he's an internationalist, or what probably you call a globalist, and so he had to have a lot of money. And so from we talking about Abraham, and as we go through the stories of the Bible, the men of the Bible, um, probably honest, they were prophets. They were men of means, significant means. So what's different between them, Job, Daniel, all these people that were came to prominence and of significant needs means? And I think it's the same thing why we follow Christ. Christ is compassionate to the least of these. So which is my topic, which is spiritual Israel, and it's this finance and wealth and compassion and least of these, that whenever you have a person that's righteous, they lean towards the poor. Like Paul says that the poor has the, not only John, Jesus says, Paul and Jesus, the poor would have the gospel preached to them, but those who are God's people. I recognize that the poor are rich in faith. The rich normally are rich in money, and that's it. So the compassion and least of these is this issue here that you see. So Abraham himself was, as I say, internationalist. I'm using these modern terms just to paint a picture for you that if, as you study his life and you read the Bible, you become very aware that he's going around the Middle East, so to speak. Let's call it like that, and we leave it at that. So notice here. So one of the things I'm going to deal with, I have this article I want to share with you, article I saw yesterday. So remember, I have this theme already picked, so I'm not cherry picking anything, but it was a major article that comes up on NBC News, and I'm going to share it with you. But this thought now that I want to share for the rest of the time here with you is this. As one look at the current news and past history, the subject of Jews and money is are filled with very negative and painful reports. So this is the history of the Jewish people. As one look at the stories currently in the news, I'm gonna read a story that just came out this week, but it's been going on ongoing. It's a major story. And you look at the news, it's filled with negative and painful reports because the Jews normally are viewed as somebody that anything is about money, money, money. But compassion for the poor and for the goyim, or the whatever you call them, the infidels, or the Gentiles, are very brutal. So what is the difference between us being spiritual Jews? So what is the difference? Because, and obviously I give away the answer in the topic. We have compassion on the least of these. So we're supposed to be into growth, prosperity, finance, all of that. You can hear it from the mainline evangelical church. They really hammer in this concept that if you're God's people, you follow the Lord, you're supposed to prosper. So they call it prosperity gospel. So what is the difference between, say, us and, say, the Catholic Church, the evangelical church, and the Jewish church and Jewish people? And the difference, I would say, is the main difference is that we believe in prosperity, believe in increasing in wealth, but we believe in also having compassion on the poor, the strangers, the fatherless, the widow, and so forth. The worthy poor. That's the difference. So I say it up front, and then I'm gonna prove my point as I go through. So noticing, and so again, when you look at Jews, very negative. The society, from I've come to America, I've heard there's so much negativity about how they abuse the poor and stuff like that. So somebody would say, Lloyd, now why would you want to be associated with the spiritual Jews? And to give you an idea how important this topic is, just in case I lose you on this, I don't want to lose you. So let's explain to you why it's so important. Along the line after the church left, so to speak, to be centered in Israel proper, or the Middle East, and start moving to the east and the west and so forth, somewhere along the line, the Christian church started to distance itself from the Jewish and want to make itself more different. And I believe this became part of the reason why some of the things cropped up in the Christian church. Sin normally cropped up, but this concept here of moving away from them, not to be identified with them. And one of the main things that they wanted to get rid of that end up happening, you see, is the Christian church moved from a Saturday worship, which is more one of the big institutions of Judaism, and moved to Sunday worship, which is one of the big institutions of paganism, to become, I guess, more part of the world, whatever the reason is, innocent or not. But it's important to note that it's always like a disassociation. So just in case you hear me saying something, I'm just saying what I've observed. I'm a neutral party. Sometimes I talk about things people believe that emotions with it. I'm no emotions. Just a neutral party. I'm just saying, if you observe, you see people view them as very cross and just terrible when it comes on to deal with money and stuff like that. But they have the money. And just in case you don't understand how big this is, if you look at almost all the major people in the financial world, most of them are Jewish. And that's just the fact. And somebody said they might not put on that thing on their head and dress in black and white, but they are. If you look at like Larry Fink and there's a Silvier guy that just caused a lot of the female chancellors of major universities like Yale and Pennsylvania and Harvard to step down. That guy, I can't remember his name, but that guy is Jewish. They're all Jewish lineage or parent or whatever they call. They classify. So they exert a lot of influence. They control America and American media. As a matter of fact, the article I'm gonna read to you from NBC News, and I remind you, NBC News is owned by a Jewish person, CNN Jewish person. So they control the American media, they control the American government. Blinken is Jewish, whatever. So it is without doubt that they do take over communities and societies. But is it good for the society? Is it good for the financial health of America? So that's why the regular citizens normally say, okay, they take over, but it's painful. So not my opinion, just an observation, and that what I said is just facts. If you can prove me wrong, I would like to see that. So Romans chapter 11, verse 28 says, as concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sake. Remember, Romans, the book of Romans, written to people in Italy, modern day Italy, is written by Paul, who is a Jewish person who used to persecute the Christians, for the most part, which were Jewish themselves. And he's saying, listen to his statement. I just want to show you here that even the Bible writers is speak in this direction when it comes on to Jewish people. Notice here, Romans chapter 11, verse 28 says, as concerning the gospel, they're enemies for your sake. But as touching the election, they're beloved for the Father's sake. So this very complicated concept I'm trying to explain to you is encapsulated here or captured here by Paul in Romans. He's basically saying there is this very painful thing that you have to deal when you deal with a Jewish person, because you're looking at them and you're saying, oh man, Father Abraham have many sons. Father Abraham is Jewish. When you say somebody is Israel, you're saying they're Jacob. What is Jacob? Somebody that would basically want to get the benefit or the birthright, but they stole it, right? So there's a sin problem that comes from the father, but we normally associate with him because he overcomes. So we want to be overcomers. When we say we're spiritual Israel, we're spiritual overcomers. We're overcoming whatever. So a challenge in life is to make your own bread and eat. So how do you be who you want to be like? You want to be like Jacob. But how was Jacob's story? Jacob's story, or Jacob, as they say in some type of way. What was Jacob's story? Jacob had to go work 21 years to get one wife, second wife, not telling you to go work 7 years for a wife. And then he had to work another 7 years for the cattle so he can make his own money. So he ended up getting the money. And if you know the story, he ended up becoming financially well off. So the whole concept of Israel takes this idea here with you're supposed to be you're supposed to financially overcome and do well for yourself. So that's what Jacob did, and he became Israel. So when we say we're spiritual Israel, we're spiritual overcomers. We overcome difficulties, challenges, and we're willing to go hard for long. But how did Jacob have to get into the situation he got into? Because he wanted the blessing, he wanted the fatness and the wealth come to him, but he stole it. And so this is the whole idea. So when we look at him, we say, oh, we love him for that because we want to overcome too. And we want to be recognized with Jacob or with Israel ultimately. But if you say, so Paul is saying here, when you think about David and you think about Daniel, oh, they're Jewish. And we wanna be, really what we want to be is like Abraham and Joseph, Jake, Job and all these people who are overcomers. But when you think about the behavior, like killing Christ and just a whole bunch of, like I remember I used to work with this guy, and he said he was Jewish, and he's a lawyer. Straight up, I used to be a slumlord, but he just, his heart couldn't take it anymore, and he was a big guy, humongous guy, and eat a lot of food and stuff, and so he was drowning in his fat, so he had to give up the slumlord lifestyle. but it's that's what you're known for. They're known for. This is just something I've observed casually. I only have to do a lot of research on this. So what does Paul say? Paul encapsulate this. Paul captured this there. It says concerning the gospel, they are enemies for your sake. All right. But touching the election, they are beloved for the Father's sake. And so it creates this dilemma. And guess what happened? Hello. Every country you live in, you're gonna find that dilemma. It's not just with them. You know what I'm saying? If you take me any country, you look at the country and say, man, there's a dilemma with the country. There's a contradiction because countries, they're trying to do good and do right, and then they're trying to do bad at the same time. As a side note, we can go more into that. So I'm gonna do a few texts and then I'm gonna come back to the article. The article is major because the article is something I saw last year. So hopefully, within all what I just said here, there's a lot I just throw up there. You understand what I'm saying? When you look at a Jew, you see people have a negative communication. They say you can't even say anything negative in America against a Jewish person because they went through the Holocaust. So Western Europeans, primarily Germans, murdered them, almost tried to wipe them out. And it was over money again and power. And then because of that, now they say you can't say. So technically, I couldn't even say. I can't say. You couldn't probably say this. What I'm talking about in major media, but yeah, privately, this is how people see it though. But no, you can't. But as I say, I'm gonna read the article from NBC News, written on NBC News that is owned by a Jewish person. So I tell you how painful. I know you can't hide it. I was actually surprised when I saw all major media cover the problems that was going on in the synagogue in New York and the craziness with them digging tunnel because they don't want to. They remember their boss, their owners are Jewish, so they don't want to post anything. So we see they post something negative that happening in Israel or with a Jewish person. Understand, it's real bad because they do not post because they're posting against their owner, the owner of them. These are the people who own America, so to speak, or own the media, I should say. So notice in Matthew chapter 11, 8, verse 11 and 12, it says, I say unto you that many shall come from the east and west and sit down with Abraham. This is Jesus speaking, and Isaac and Jacob. Jacob, obviously, namesake is changed to Israel, in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So the bloodline of Abraham, of Jacob, of Isaac, these are men that overcome, that we love. We read their stories and we want to be like them. No matter how bad you have done in your life, wrong choices you made, did corruptly, you're hoping that one day you can overcome. So you study about Jacob and you say, man, I want to be like Jacob. Just with one wife. And you want to be like that. So notice he's saying that says there's going to be people from the east and the west who's going to sit down with Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. So Christ is telling you that he's basically confirming that when the resurrection come, Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, and Jacob is going to make it in the kingdom. And so I want to make it there. And so I'm covered in this text. You and I, we're covered. We're spiritual Israel because we follow Jacob and we want to be overcome so we can make it in the kingdom, right? That's why we do what we do. Because ultimately, no matter what happens in this world, we want to be saved in the kingdom. And Christ promised us there that the Gentiles, including those of us who are not spiritual Israel, but he says the children of Israel, they're going to be cast out in the outer darkness. Now, why? Because look at the context. I covered the context yesterday of this text. The context was Christ was healing people and it made Jews mad. So there is such a thing as you can be an overcomer and be compassionate because the primarily thing that they went after Christ for, they say it was because he said the Son of God. But every time you see he start talking about, who is this concept of spiritual Israel, they hated him for that. They tried to kill him for this. And the other thing was that, they didn't like the concept of healing people and stuff like that. Every time he was healing people, he seemed to make them mad. So there is a thing that you can look out for people that are less fortunate, and it makes sinners mad. It's very strange. You can tell that says sin is upon people's mind. And that I'm gonna cover that at the end of the talk here with you. That you will not lose your reward to bless the poor, the fatherless, and naked. And you will not lose your money. Because remember, $5 blessed by God is more than 5 million or $5 billion or $5 trillion, which I think is the total amount of money that America takes in for tax in the country. Is more. $5, 5 million or 5 trillion is more with God's blessing than with God's curse upon you. So you do what God says and don't follow wicked people. In 3 John chapter 1, verse 3, 2 and 3, it says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayst prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospered. So here we find in this Bible that we're supposed to prosper and we're supposed to be in good health. The obvious is given in this text, that the obvious is you are supposed to prosper. Now, why is it that if you're overcomer, you prosper? Because we have studied the story of Jacob, that no matter what odds, Jacob was had to run away from his father's home, so all support were cut off. And yet Jacob, through hardship, worked and worked and worked, and the Lord blessed him. He was scammed. He was given a wife that he was supposed to get. And all that happened to him. And he still worked. He was, no matter how much the guy scammed him and tried to rip him off, well, it's his father-in-law, right? He still worked hard. And it shows you that you can put in the hard work and pray. And while you're suffering, pray. God will bless you. And God will make you overcome your oppressors. And this is a story of Joseph. This is a story of Israel itself. The Hebrews that were in Abraham's children that was in Egypt. They end up coming up with great resources. So the Lord, this statement here, we normally talk about it for health. But really, the statement here you can take for granted what it's saying, the obvious. The Lord is saying here, I want you to prosper, but I want you to be in good health also. I want you to prosper health-wise as you are, financially. But normally we read the statement here, we kind of ignore the financial prosperity or social prosperity. Because there's people I know that they doing well financially and their health is a mess and they're depressed and suicidal because they're not prospering socially. So, beloved, I will read again. I wish above all things that thou mayst prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospered. So, mind and body, socially, spiritually, everything. I want you to do well. This is what we do here. And this is what I'm trying to do for myself. Be a Jacob. So, notice here, for I rejoice greatly when the brethren came and testified of the truth that is in thee, even as thou walkest in the truth. So we're supposed to walk in the truth. That's why, as I say, we're spiritual Jews when it comes on to lifestyles. Somebody say, how can you want to be a spiritual Jew or spiritual Israel? It's not negative. It's not negative. You know, as I say, Western Europe and stuff, they don't like them. And that's why there have been so many bloodbaths over the years. It's not negative, Lloyd. And I say, well, Paul, let's clarify. Paul said, yes, it's negative, Paul says. So not me. Paul says it in Romans. But he says, for the Father's sake, it's positive because we want to be like David without the negative part. We want to be like Solomon, which is the wisdom without the negative part, so forth. So we want to prosper that way. Exodus chapter 15, verse 5 through 6. 5 and 6 says, now therefore, if you obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people, for all the earth is mine. And ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel. So I'm supposed to speak this to you. What I'm saying to you here, that you need to be a peculiar treasure, right? So you not need to be like the regular rest of the people out in the society. So imagine a Jewish person reads this all the time and this in their head. So for them, prosperity, doing good, being the lender, not the borrower, is something that they grew up with. You are supposed to grow up with that because you're a spiritual Jew. The difference is you're supposed to be holy and you're supposed to be like Jesus. So that's why we're spiritual Israel that follow Jesus. In Deuteronomy 28, verse 12 through 14, it says, "The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the works of thy hand. And thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow." That's why, if you notice, a lot of the financial managers and those who run a lot of the corporations, I mean, a lot of this stuff in like Wall Street and stuff, are Jewish. This is in their head. This is what they're thinking, and this is what you're supposed to be thinking spiritually. You just have a difference with what you do. You have compassion. That's all. You're just supposed to be like them with the compassion. "And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail." And the tail, notice, the cow eats at his head and poop at his tail. So you don't want to be the one that these people, poop is coming out at, or coming out with, or whatever. People pooping on you, all right? Or the cow is dunging on you or something, whatever they call it, dumping on you. And so you're covered in feces. You don't want to be that person. So notice here, but the Jewish person try not to be that person, but sometimes what they do, they're dumping on other people. They have no compassion. So notice, "The Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, and thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath, if thou shalt hearken now unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day to observe and to do them." So the question is being merciful to the poor, the as I said, the fatherless, the stranger, or the foreigner, the illegal alien, as they call them, because they are from outer space, is to the widow and stuff like that. Is that part of the commandments of God? And we see, and I've taught you here, on through many a presentation, that is a commandment. We're told, if you break the commandment, it's a commandment to take care of these people. You're breaking the commandments of God. The Jewish people was aggressive against this. To this day, they hate anybody that's less fortunate, it seems. "And thou shalt not go aside to any word which I command thee this day, to the right hand and to the left hand, and then to observe to serve other gods." As I'd read last week, I'll read again before I go to the article, and then the main text I want to deal with for the day. Notice here in Job chapter 29, verse 11 through 17, Job chapter 29, verse 11 through 17. "When the ear heard me, then it blessed me. And when the eye saw me, it gave witness to me." So Job, who was before Abraham, before Moses, was an Israelite that had compassion, which is basically my topic. Spiritual Israel, finance and wealth, and compassion on the least of these. Job had compassion on the least of these. Job was a free market capitalist, and Job at the same time was what would I call him again? Job was also a socialist. You see, Job could walk and chew gum. There's people they can't be a Christian and be a free market capitalist. In other words, you have to have rules and regulation. You have to have big government and small government, and I believe in the whole thing. There's some people no, it's just free market capitalists, no big government. They're libertarian. They believe it should be the Wild West, so forth and so on. And they don't believe in no social program. They believe nothing for the poor, nothing for the old people. And interestingly enough, the people who are most like this in their mindset are older people who are heading to the nursing homes. Very fascinating. It's like it's crazy. It's like the suicidal. So Notice here, because I delivered the poor that cried, and the fatherless, and him that had none to help him. The blessings of him that was ready to perish came upon me, and the cause of the widow's heart, I caused the widow's heart to sing for joy. I put on righteousness, and it clothed me. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem. I was eyes to the blind, and feet I I to the lame. I was a father to the poor, and the cause which I knew not I search out. And I break the jaw of the wicked, and pluck the spoil out of his teeth. So we follow this. So before I go to my main text, which I haven't got to yet, I'm gonna read this article here. Well, so this article now is taken from NBC News, and it's entitled "A Nursing Home Chain Grew Too Fast and Collapsed. Elderly and disabled resident pay the price." So why this article is important? Because I read about this article, because this article, I'll tell you the date of it. It's written by Laura Strickler, Stephanie Gosh, and Shelby Hassan. So three people write it. and it's written July 19, 2019. So July 19, 2019. So I remember reading about this years ago, and so we now 2024. So I'm dating it because it's important for the date. Because what happened yesterday now is that the guy that run the chain, and you can see it on NBC News. It was a headline yesterday. So the owner failed nursing home chain accused of $38 million tax fraud scheme pleaded guilty. So the name of this person is called Joseph Swartz, and he plea in a plea agreement called for a year in prison. So he got a year in prison. I'm gonna read 2019 what he did because I remember reading about this years ago, and I didn't even remember this thing event happened until I saw the news that he pleaded guilty, and yesterday the article. And he's gonna get a supervised 3 year supervised release, 1 year in prison, and he's required to pay $5 million. So they accuse him of bilking the government for 38 million. And oh, it's a Jewish guy, but it's the Jewish person that wear the tam on his head or whatever that black cap is. And so he's gonna pay 5 million in restitution. So they accusing him of bilking the government for 38 million, and he's gonna pay 5 million in restitution, 1 year in prison. That if that's true, that seems like he's is profitable. It's not profitable if you minus 5 from 38 and then 1 year in prison. So that's 1 year worth of work, and then 5 or whatever year. How many years of observation? 3 years. He still made out like they say a bandit. So the person who wrote the new article is Laura Strickler, which is Laura Strickler is the person, one of the people of the three people that wrote the first article. And so he played guilty. So that's what he gets. So now I'm gonna go back to the article. Now I'm gonna take the article. It's a long article because three people write it in multiple states, running nursing homes, and he really, So this as an example, I'm showing you right in the current news. You're gonna have to read the whole article. I can't get through all the article, but you're gonna have to read the article for yourself. The amount of abuse that he did, but he was making a lot of money off these nursing homes. He was killing it, so to speak, and killing the people. It seems like, but he get 1 year in prison for all of that. But and remember, this is written in NBC News, which is owned by Jewish people. So this guy's Jewish. His namesake is Joseph, the beloved Joseph. Now notice here. So he started talking about this person. I must skip that. He started talking about one of the people who their loved one was suffering at one of his facility. But I want to get into not just the personal part, but the part about what it is. So this guy here run many homes other than the home that the main person they were talking about had a loved one in the home, and he started 14 homes were in what he owned out of. They estimate he owned about 100 homes. So 14 of the homes were forced to close permanently. That displaced over 900 residents and facilities. 900 residents and new facilities had to take them within hours, right? So he was running over 100 nursing homes. They assume because he never disclosed how many he was owned. The story of Joseph Swartz and Skyline Healthcare is one of a swift expansion, alleged mismanagement, and catastrophic failure. An NBC investigation revealed the scale of Skyline, which is the name of the company that Joseph Swartz run, debacle, in which one man built an empire that quickly crumbled with painful consequence for the vulnerable people. It also showed failure of the state and federal authorities to keep up with just who owns and run Americans' nursing homes facilities, which house over 1.3 million elderly and disabled Americans, about three-quarters of them in beds paid for by taxpayers via Medicaid and Medicare. The states are responsible for tracking ownership and condition at nursing homes within their borders, but only federal government can monitor the performance of firms that owns and operates facilities across the nation. The allegation of negligence at major nursing home chains come at the time they were talking about in 2019, when Trump administration was moving to ease and not to increase accountability for the industry, to reduce penalties and terminate fewer contracts with problem owners. So Swartz, meanwhile, still has ownership stake of 53 nursing home on federal record state in 2019. So he went from a 10 nursing home to 100 in 2 years. So within 2 years, he went from 10 nursing home to 100. A Brooklyn, New York based insurance broker and landlord, Joseph Swartz, entered the nursing home business with more than 10 years, within 10 years of this article written, after he sold his Florida based insurance company. In 2017, this deposition, a malpractice lawsuit filed by a family alleging neglect on one of his homes in Pennsylvania. Swartz explained why he got into the industry. He said, basically, I used to do a lot of servicing in selling insurance policy to long-term care industry, and I felt that I could and that I understand the quality care, and I will do a very good job in doing quality care for residents. He started with half a dozen homes, but after creating Skyline Healthcare, he began expanding rapidly. In November 2015, with a purchase of 17 homes, Swartz ran Skyline out of a tiny office above a New Jersey pizzeria. He was CEO. His wife, Rosie, co owned most of the properties, and his two sons, Michael and Louis, serve as vice president. The company had bare bones website and a slogan, Skyland, the home life you crave. So Skyland, the home life you crave. During 2017 deposition, he said Skyland is an entity that is me. So he's saying there's really not a back end to this. This is I am the back end. This is crazy. His network is hard to compute, but real estate record shows he owns a $9 million worth of real estate in New York metropolitan area, including a gated house in Suffolk, New York. Within a year of the purchase of the 17 homes, Swartz had taken another 64 by 2017. So he went from 10 or some days say about a dozen to another 17 added to that, and then another 64 within 2 years, which is amazing because now you have to manage that. And he said he is Skyline Health. So one man and his two sons and wife is managing over about 100 nursing homes. Like they say, what could go wrong? Swartz wouldn't provide a number when the plaintiff attorney asked him repeatedly in 2017 how many homes he ran. He confirmed it was more than five, but asked if it was more than 100. He said several times that he couldn't recall. So when somebody said they couldn't recall, they always say, I was always told that was what President Reagan would said. He can't recall until dementia set in. So notice here, with more than 100 family facilities, experts estimate Swartz would have been juggling a few $100 million a year in taxpayers' money from Medicaid and Medicare. So I want you to sink that in. He's operating 100 facilities, and he was juggling a few $100 million a year. He had to do budget, and he's running an office that's running 100 nursing home from an office above a pizzeria in New Jersey. But problems had emerged quickly. Within 6 months of Skyland entering into the Arkansas market in 2015, the state attorney general investigating reports of neglect at Skyland facilities. Marcella Watkins, who visited her mother daily in Spring Place Health and Rehab in Little Rock, Arkansas, that is, said that the food went downhill once Skyland took over. She recalls staff serving raw vegetables and boxed pizza to elderly patients. It's a money making business, she said, and guess who doesn't get the care? Our loved ones. Karen Coast, 57 years old, brother Donnie Owens, fell at another Skyland, Arkansas facility in 2017, heavily bruised in his face. She laid on the he laid on the floor for 45 minutes before staff found him. Coates said staffing was a revolving door and that she frequently complained, though little change. The state attorney general later issued Skyline Health with more than $200,000 in civil fines for neglect and preventing for neglect, preventable falls, failure to bathe residents, maggots in the residents' personal medical equipment. So $200,000 for, remember, he's juggling hundreds of millions of dollars of Medicaid, Medicare money, so government taxpayers' money. And they hit him with a fine, $200,000 for neglect, preventable falls, that's a with a S, failure to bathe residents with a S again, maggots in residents' personal equipment, and it continues. Give me a break here. So this is Karen Coates' brother, Danny Owens. I want to just show something here. Danny Owens. So I know for the browser's sake, I'm gonna just do something here. So that was the guy. Just for those on YouTube or whoever will watch it later on YouTube, I want to show the guy. The guy had a terrible fall. He almost took out his right eye. His right eye was black and blue. It's like horrible. Yeah, here. So I just show this so you can see how bad it was. This is maggots, all this type of stuff. But he's making big money. So somebody would say, so Lloyd, why would you want to even associate in word with people? And I can see why in the dark ages and stuff, the church disassociate themselves. They don't want to have nothing to do with this type of stuff. But they themselves become fall to their own sins. That's another story. So notice here, in Massachusetts, staff say that Swartz's son visited the property. So one of his sons, I don't know if it's Lewis or Clark, visited the property before taking over, promising new resources, but cuts started within a year. Certified nurse assistants were reduced from 5 to 3, according to ex-employees. Staff were told that disposable briefs would be rationed to 2 per patients per shift instead of as needed, meaning patients were left languishing in their own body waste. One former head of nursing told NBC News the management offered giveaways to smooth over changes. She said she told them, I don't want free barbecue grill. I don't want a free barbecue grill. I want to save the staff I have on the floor. As problems mounted, Skyline continued to expand. In 2017, he entered South Dakota. Swartz reported at least half of the homes he operated around the nation from Georgia-based Golden Living Center. According to a local news report, the property records, which acted as Swartz's landlord, sorry. Last year, Skyland released a statement to the South Dakota Reporter blaming Golden for problems in its South Dakota nursing homes. Skyland said the chain was dedicated to providing quality care and meeting its obligation, but that Golden had caused the issues. Monroe, the analyst, said landlords like Golden hold some responsibility. How did they not do their due diligence to let or vet Skyline? This is a mystery. A spokesman for Golden Living Centers conceded the company contracted with Swartz to run 17 homes in South Dakota, but would not comment on other states. The spokesperson also declined to answer if the company vetted Swartz, saying he convinced a lot of people in a lot of states he ran a big scam. So he says he convinced a lot of people in a lot of states to take over the nursing home. So imagine you're in a nursing home, you're having probably a problem running a nursing home. Somebody come and say, I can do a better job. I'm an insurance salesperson. I'm an insurance salesperson. I can do a better job. And convince you to turn over the nursing home to them. And the question is, and how are they going to make money? How are they going to run it? What is the skill there? They seem like you just convince them, which again, that could be great. He probably is highly motivated. Probably good to hear how he talk. By September 2017, Skyland had taken over Ashton Place, a nursing home in Memphis, Tennessee. Less than 2 months later, a resident from a resident with a recent leg amputation was taken from the nursing home, where he was found lying in feces to a hospital where nurse he was lying in feces, comma, to a hospital he was taken, where nurses discovered maggots and gangrene in his leg. According to police report obtained by local NBC affiliate WMC, his death 2 days later prompted a state investigation, which revealed the man had not had his dressing changed in 2 days. Staff said problems arose in part when Skyland told nurses to abandon electronic medical records and go back to paper record keeping. Unbelievable. So you're going from paper, you're going from what? From electronic to back to paper. And so you can imagine they couldn't keep record track. Probably they didn't know how to track it that way. And so the confusion would take in. So my man died, but had maggots in his wounds. Unbelievable. So you can read these horror stories. You can say, he's rich, right? And when he comes out of prison, the government is claiming he built them for 38 million, but they're only going to fine him 5 million. So what's the punishment? So during the investigation, the company medical director told inspectors, "I have no support. I have no support, no direction." So the person running it for Swart say, "I have no support. I have no direction. I don't know what I'm doing, and nobody's telling me what to do." A spokesman, I'm almost there. A spokesman for the state agency that approved Swart's takeover of Ashton Place said while Skyland had faced problems in other states, that did not disqualify it from operating in Memphis, the Memphis nursing home. A month after the death, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the federal agency that oversees the nursing home industry, terminate medical certificate for the facility and another Skyland property in Tennessee. It terminated a third in 2018. According to the spokesperson, each individual facility is separately certified and held accountable for compliance with minimum health and safety standard. The spokesperson added that CMS has limited authority to intervene when the facility is struggling financially. And so I'll take this last part here because the article keep going. You have to read the article on your own. So I'll just say this last part here. The government and taxpayers were paying for Skyland rise. Industry analysts say nursing homes are on a decline as other options like assisted living, which is, I believe in that. Oh, and I might say to you that if you listen to me talk here, be aware that I worked in nursing homes in the past. So this article, I understand to a certain degree because I've worked in nursing home facilities and in the past, done nursing home programs with churches and stuff like that. So and so I've worked in all the units. So assisted living, units where people are totally paralyzed or elderly, various different type of nursing homes. So the number of residents have fallen from an estimated 1.15 million in 2010 to 1.3 million in 2015. So they said nursing home residents have been in decline. Notice this now. But they also say a silver tsunami of baby boomers in their 80s may be on the horizon. So they're saying, listen, although there's been a decline, there's a silver tsunami coming because there's so many baby boomers that are aging out and they're going to be ending up, many of them could be ending up in nursing homes or residential care or vice versa. So I say that because remember, in 2019, when you talk about people who was running the country via Trump, primarily from down south, they want less government, less regulation, and they were loosening the regulation in the nursing homes. Well, the silver tsunami going to come, so they're going to vote their curse that's coming up on them because they're going to loosen the regulation and then go into these facilities where abuse can skyrocket. There was worse in the article. We'll stop there. So in Matthew chapter 25, verse 24, so we say, well, so we're spiritual Israel, but what is it about compassion? Compassion on the elderly, the widow, the fatherless. Why do we have compassion on people that are illegal, aliens as they call them, people fleeing from terrorism and poverty and lack of food? Why would we have compassion on them? In Matthew 25, verse 24, Christ teaches us that when he that which had received 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou was a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strewn. And I was afraid, and I went and hid the talent in the earth. Lo, there thou hast that is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gathered where I have not strewn. Thou hast ought to as thou oughtest therefore to have put thou ought to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Therefore take away the talent from him, and give it to him which had not, to him which had 10 talents. For everyone that had shall be given, and to him that have abundance. But he, sorry, to everyone that had shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that had not shall be taken away, even that which he had. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This weeping and gnashing of teeth, I wanted to come back to this because I think this is important. And so when we talk about, there's people sometimes they have, and they have more than the heart's desire, and it's only to hoard up. It's not to use to bless others. And they're going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So notice here now, I'm going to go to this idea here to see if I can finish off the thought. Lots of moving parts here. Notice here we read, when the Son of Man shall come, in verse 31, in his glory, and all his holy angel with him, then shall ye sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a as a shepherd divided his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep in his right hand, on his right hand, and the goats on his left. Then shall the king say unto them on the right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you come unto me. Then shall the righteous answer and answered him, say, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger and took thee in, or naked and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick or in prison and came and visited me? So that's the big question, right? Because somebody could say, well, I'm spiritual Jew, I'm Jewish, I'm Christian, I'm Protestant, I'm Catholic, and this. And this text becomes the big issue. We're supposed to be spiritual Jew, but we're supposed to look out for the less fortunate. Now, I know over the years I've worshiped with a lot of people, deal with a lot of secular people. They are very aggressive against anybody that is in this situation. And I don't think you should take over a nursing home or do anything to do with old people or the elderly or the silver-haired or the widow unless you have compassion. But we can see constantly, they'll just do things to build the society. But this is not only in Jewish. You see the Catholics are like that the same way. They'll do these things, but then there's little kids screaming because they've been raped by these priests. Are all priests doing that? No. But this has been a big problem, big scandal. So don't tell me it's not happening. It's happening big time, as it will not be reported the way it's reported. Even to the Pope. You know, there's people who contradict the Pope. If the Pope come out and say we have a problem, how can you contradict that? So that's a big question. That's the question that you and I have to ask. Because somebody say, well, they ask the right question. When did they see Christ naked? Think about it. Everything that we just read here, Christ was that. Christ, as a child, to flee to Egypt,
to escape the Italians or escape the Romans. That's a fact. Christ was naked. Christ was locked up just in a prison hall. He was taken from the prison hall, taken to the court. He was everything he did that everybody fled and left him. The ultimate thing that you and I have to deal with is this. When we turn our backs on those that are suffering because we either selfish or we want to enjoy our good life or whatever it is, or we're just yellow and scared because we're scared of whatever government that's in power, the primary government that we have to deal with is the American government. The question comes to you, would you have done that to Jesus? And the answer is yes, you would. Stop being fake. You would. You need to face that and face the reality that says, we don't, a lot of time we don't want to help. So notice here, when you did this, Christ, you did it to me. But somebody said, oh, Christianity is about doctrine line. Why is the church emptying out? Why are people so suicidal and depressed? Because they have not found the real reason for life. The real reason for life is you and me. We need to look out for each other in spite of the wickedness and the wicked people in the society. So notice here, then shall I say unto them that on the left, depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire. Depart, prepared for the devil and his angel. But they're going to go in there too. For I was hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and you took me not in. Naked, and you clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and you visited me not. Then shall I also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee hungered and thirst, and a stranger, and naked, and sick, in prison, and did not minister unto you? Then he answered them, verily I say unto you, insomuch as you did it not to the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into eternal, into life eternal. Jesus, you have to learn some doctrines, but at the end of the day, it comes down to righteousness. That's how I look at it. When you read the Bible, you follow Jesus. Somebody say, oh, but how about my government? How about my family member? How about my crazy head? My crazy head is telling me to be selfish. Well, you can do what your crazy mind telling you. But what God is telling you to do is you don't qualify it. The only qualification we understand is the worthy poor. We don't waste money and goof, people goofing off and stuff like that. Loafers and people, lazy and stuff like that. But Bible tells us that when you see people in need, you take care of the need, and God will repay you. And as I say, and ultimately we have life eternal. We're told that even many people were rich, including like Joseph of Arimathea, Nicodemus. They did what they had to do, and God blessed them. That they end up losing life's resource, but we all gonna die anyhow, and the only house that we're gonna have when we finish is a casket, if we're lucky, if we're not eaten by sharks or get burnt alive. So whatever you can do to bless people, you will never lose your reward. That's what Christ said. You will never lose your reward. Don't follow wicked people trying to tell you, oh no, don't do that. Okay, then you can follow them, but we follow Jesus. So what's the difference between us and Israel, so to speak? Not the real guy that named Israel, that was the real Jacob that overcome. But what's the difference between us and Jews? Is that we believe in prosperity. We believe in finance, making money, doing well for ourselves financially. But we also believe in compassion on those that are suffering. And we balance both. As I say, we walk in true gum. We can have both ideas in our mind. We can be like Job. We can be like Abraham. Abraham had 1,000 people, and except his wife, everybody. At one point it was Lot, but then Lot moved away. So everybody in his family, in his household, was foreigners until he had a child. So he lived for years among foreigners. And so we can be like him. Don't make nobody tell you that you can't be around foreigners. Because Abraham was. So we follow Abraham. Joseph was living among, foreigners, married to a foreigner. Moses married to a foreigner. I'm not telling you go married to a foreigner. I'm just saying, people say, I can't worship with foreigners and stuff because I have to worship my own. Be like the fathers. We love them, and that's why we follow. And so, other than that, you can be a Christian and take care of your finances and do financially excellent and still bless those that are less fortunate and look out for the innocent. You can walk in true gum. Don't let nobody tell you that. So Psalms 135 verse 4 says, the Lord had chosen Jacob unto himself and Israel for his peculiar treasure. You want to be God's peculiar treasure? Love the fathers because they give us good example of what to be spiritual, to be religious. And then, and then you be good. And then love Jesus because Jesus teaches us to be compassionate. And you don't have to be like these crazy people running up money and hurting people and killing people. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for your word in this day. I pray, dear Lord, that you may bless us as we go along in this life. And truly, dear Father, that we might be like your Son. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow, where we should talk about natural health. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.